Okay, I think you all more or less know I come from Lisbon. I would like to know, do you know Lisbon? Who knows Lisbon? Who have been in Lisbon? Okay, that's kind of interesting for me to know. I will be very brief, very fast. I have lots of images. It will be like 3 parts. One part is lived experience, like 3 years ago. Like the second part will be lived experience a month ago, and then the third part will be my reflection that I want to share with you and discuss after. Okay. This was what happened in 2008. This was a neighborhood in Lisbon. It was a nightlife place, and it is at the moment. And they really needed to work it out. It had some problems there of noise because of the people on the street and so on. So the usage of the space needed to change. There's a commercial association that they need to put the beer more expensive, basically. So they needed to generate a more friendly public space so the beer could be higher per price and they can gentrify a bit the place. So, and the graffiti was in between this, okay. I had like a past with the community of people that were painting in Lisbon, and I had like a lingo related with the architect. So I felt here an opportunity for trying to mediate the relation between the community and the city council. They had a preconceived idea to do something that was like, okay, don't paint there, paint here in this place that I will give you, okay, and I will give you conditions for you to paint here. And since from the first second I told them that that's another thing, okay, you will reach a spectrum of the audience that's not the same people that's doing that other stuff, that's doing that stuff in the other image. But anyways, it's good because, you know, you are fostering some kind of creativity, some kind of relation, some kind of dialogue, so it's good. Go ahead. And they do this kind of very non-understanding of anything that was going on with catering service, with, you know, city council working on. And, but during passing some time, the thing would get more flexible, and you can see even the tram, it's and it's some it's permission somehow all around. And this actually was a project, some ideas that were launched by a group of people, where several people, I was not only on this, and we generated several ideas that were supported on 3 branches. One was this precondition idea that came from city council. The second idea was to have like a space where we can share ideas and dialogue and have like discussions, and like an inner space, like a building, well, where we could make stuff inside, and also with the community around. That was in the place of this nightlife space, so the Bairro Alto area. And the third leg of this idea of dealing with the phenomenon was to interact with neglected parts of the city that were constituted by walls, buildings, wherever, and try with these creative actions to regenerate some kind of image of the city. And this led to the CRONO project. That was a project that was developed by me, Vils, Alex Fart, and Italian curator, that's Angelo Milano. And this was, we at the time felt that the city council were like appropriating themselves from our ideas and were not giving anything to us. So we needed to organize ourselves, constitute an association, propose a project that was like closed thing, that had a budget, that had like a mission, that had purposes, you know. And this was CRONO. It was 1-year project, 9 interventions with 9 authors during the 3 pieces each season of the year. And this 1-year project. And this developed this kind of intervention that was, this is Century, and then the famous Gemius and Blue in a corner of a very busy street in Lisbon. And all this got big mediatic attention. The first interventions were these ones. So, and at the same time, we felt like, whoa, now we are giving tools for them to like doing some kind of city branding that we are not agreeing with. So we were like on this messy situation, and but we still got the power of being the curators of the thing. So we tried to select some authors that were like bending this logic of, you know, branding of the city. So we started to select other authors like Brad Downey and others. Eventually got like censored, although we got like the authorship of the project. There was a like a protocol signed and everything, but they like censored like Nug, that's quite controversial author. And so that was more or less the path of this relation with the city council. After all this process, I just like stopped and tried to reflect what was happening. And this reflection existed since the beginning. So even in the first dialogues with the city council, we got this very strong idea of what was going on Barcelona, actually. And we shown to the city council of Lisbon that the scene in Barcelona was really high, really strong, and now they are cleaning everything, and this is having like bad consequences in terms of the image of the city internationally and even for the citizens there. So we explained this very well. So these were like push them for a medium situation, not cleaning everything and not allowing everything. So and started this mediation process. And we recorded a bit the thing. We in the beginning we dialogued with the urbanism department of the city council. And this urbanism department, I think it's quite relevant, this issue, because the urbanism deals with the city in like a timeless way. You know, it's like everyday basis. The city must work. It's like the functioning of the city. And during the process, when this snowball started to roll and get like big and stuff, the guys from the urbanism department, they shifted us for the cultural department. They started to looking at this like event logic, you know, like festivals. Now I'll do this festival, now I'll do this party here. Like a narrative, you know, a narrative to feed this logic of the creative city and the branding of the city and so on. So we felt like it was quite bad for us in this moment, because in this shift from urbanism to cultural department, we lost the relation with the cleaning process, because they were developing a cleaning process in this Bairro Alto neighborhood. And we tried to make the thing connected, but somehow we just lose the thing, because the only persons we can speak to was these guys from culture, so they were into this, you know, event logic, and we don't want it anymore. So, but eventually this leads to other opportunities that some happened with other institutions, nationwide, other municipalities, other stuff that I will not explain, but it was good in this sense, because it opened a lot of opportunities that I'm developing in Portugal in general. Okay, one of the opportunities, this is the second part, was the idea of generating the dialogue and to reflect, to generate knowledge around this subject, as Marcus and all the staff are promoting here. I said Marcus because I was invited by Marcus. And actually this notion, as I've shown, of analyzing and reflecting and so on, it was a thing that is always present. And as I have a background of academic search, and also as a practitioner, I was like compelled to do something like a conference, like an international conference that could think what was happening in Lisbon, gathering as much knowledge as possible from everyone as possible. So this idea got formed with a colleague and friend, that it's Daniela, that is here, and in a conference that was basically the first visible thing was a call for papers. That was this image. And the conference occurred in July, and there's a book there, and actually the conference was a big surprise for us. It was lots of people from lots of countries. You can see here more or less the dimension of the thing. And then we got, like, it was quite dense 3 days of work with all these people, and it was quite interesting in the fine arts school in Lisbon and so on. A very relevant thing about this subject of study, it's very transversal in terms of areas of knowledge. And this is quite interesting. This is the real numbers of the people and the areas that were affected in the thing. But also the credibility of the knowledge, it's quite high. We are not just, this is a quite relevant thing in society now. So actually it's getting even more strong as we speak. So it's just a question of generating the means for, and everyone got happy. This was a small assessment inquiry, and there are some images from the conference. The conference then generated two products. One was the book that's there, and the other one, it's on this logic of the topic. It's the idea of constituting a scientific journal about the subject, and not being just one publication, but like, opening a scientific journal, like trying to index it, trying to give some space for the scholars to get credited for, and build this stronger as possible, this field of knowledge. Actually, we already launched the call for papers for the journal, and this is the scientific committee. It's quite international, and they have quite nice names, renowned names there, and hopefully they will help us in selecting the best abstracts that will appear. Okay, now I will enter in the third part of my presentation, and this is it's not the contextual thing, but it's like my proposition for dialogue and so on. The thing of the time and the relation with this phenomenon, it's quite relevant, because usually there are, lots of frameworks of time by thinking of this thing. Some of start in the 70s, other go to the caves, and it's kind of complex. And I can share my perspective that it's Lisbon based, and this is the floor of Lisbon, and this is not only central Lisbon, like in the very far away outskirts. Actually, everywhere the pavement is like this. This is not just to be fancy. It's like the way we do pavement for everyone. And this actually started by prisoners that were in the 17th, 18th century, starting to do these kind of patterns. And going even more back in time, we can find some characteristics of Portuguese way of acting upon the land and territory, like. And I'm quite interested in this, and I think a lot that this is connected with what we are talking here about, and I feel a lot connected also with the idea of the child play. This fact that Martha Cooper was photographing kids, and then the graffiti was inside the thing. I think it makes all the sense. We were all kids. We all know that what's to interact in the environment, playing with it, So I think it's not something that you can detach, like you are an artist or you are a creative person. I think it's really human condition. And actually, this human condition thing leave traces on landscape. The humans, since ever, crossing by fields, they use the highest point as possible because of the necessity of protection somehow, and see what you are facing. So when you have marks on territory, they are a reflection of needs You know, it's not just because because there's a need behind it. You know, and when you pass this image to the urban context, to the city, what happens is this: you have this desired path, this creation of these elements that are not exactly planned, you know, but we need to deal with them as planners or as users, whatever. And if you scale it up, you can find some of these characteristics also in these urbanistic organic things. Actually, it's Lisbon. So just to end, and for you to understand a bit, this tagging and this kind of situation, actually it's a consequence of a need that it's very intensified, because the usage of this street, it's like this every night we're like this. So the consequence was, this is what the signs, you know, like the marks in the territory of this kind of usage. So it's natural, it's human condition. It's not, you know. So I think there's thoughts that can back us up on this. I tend a lot to draw upon these two logics. This logic that is quite strong in architecture field from the 60s and so on. This logic of that we built ourselves, our environment, you know. And another logic that's also from the 60s, late 60s, but it's more sensitive, let's say, that's the determinant and the psychogeography that was already mentioned here. I don't know how I am with time, but I have just this table to show. And I try to reply to the questions of this session and try to make like a very scientific and, you know, like non-scientific approach to the thing, just to try to compel some replies. But I tried actually to divide the questions for me have two components. One, it's related with the perceptions and the kind of perceptions we can have. You know, this is like drawers, but reality it's not like this, but it's some way we can dialogue. And the kind of shifts that can occur, you know. And the other question, you know, this approach, there are lots of possible approaches, and you know, from the more crude, like crime-based ones, to the, you know, creative industries one, and this is like a generic thing. There's just one thing I want to share with you, like in the design against crime thing. There's one guy it's a traffic engineer that gives a proposition for the usage of, to design crossroads. And his proposition is to eliminate all the signs. And he proved that when you eliminate all the signs of certain crossroads, you get really low reduction of, you know, problems in the public space, because people look at each other and not look at the signs, you know, and not get behind of the signs and the logic of the signs. So this logic of reducing rules, I think it's quite relevant in the sense that we humanize the relations between each other. And well, this is it. Thank you.